Hey, welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneurs Creating OMG Moments. We are so excited today because I've got Vickie Gould with us, and Vickie and I go way back to when we first both started our businesses, and we met in a coaching program. So today might just feel more like me and Vickie catching up while you guys are listening in, but it's going to be a fun conversation because it's been a little bit since we have caught up. And I'm excited to hear what has been going on for her. And I know she's been making some big moves and creating lots of OMG moments. So we're excited to have her on here. We met back in 2017. We were both going through a coaching program and both started off as coaches, and she's made some twists and turns. So Vickie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little about where you've gone from that point of starting with coaching to today.
Oh gosh, that's a long time it feels. And then it also feels so short. So thanks for having me, Tami. I am so excited to share with your audience some of those aha moments. I'm a gabber, so I'm going to tell a lot of stories. And so your question about how this all got started and things like that, like back when we were learning to coach, I actually thought that I was going to be a health coach.
Mhm.
And then I thought I was going to be a law of attraction coach. And then I was told that nobody's going to buy that. And people are like, oh, you need to be a weight loss coach. I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And then they said, oh, nobody's going to buy that woo woo stuff. And so the first jaunt into coaching was actually helping people with books. And so I've helped 122 people become best-selling authors. And while that was really great, behind the scenes, I was coaching manifestation, law of attraction, mindset, and all that stuff. I even had one of my past clients be like, okay, I want to join your book coaching program, but are you going to teach me the law of attraction stuff? And I said, for sure. Behind the scenes, we're always doing that. And what I found is the most of the coaches, like we do somewhat similar things, but even if your front offer, like that book offer, right, is
Mhm.
there, behind the scenes, we're kind of all doing very similar things, helping people with getting rid of negative thoughts, releasing the past, and stuff like that. I feel like I'm not answering a question. Am I answering your question about everything? 'Cause
Yeah, well, and so I mean, and I think this is a great point because I know so many of our people listening probably feel the same way where it's like they're trying to figure out what to do. They're really being drawn towards one thing, and then they've got people saying, "No, do this other thing," or "That's not gonna make you money." Even
right.
though we know there's a lot of attraction coaches out there making lots of money.
Exactly.
And it's interesting how we can let that persuasion of people
Right.
who we look to as mentors be
Yeah.
that
Well, you think about it, we grew up listening to our parents, listening to
Mhm.
our teachers, listening to, so there's always some sort of authoritarian figure, right? That we thought was going to guide us in a certain way until we realized that, we all have our path and we all have to figure that out on our own. And what works for one person may not work for us. And something that works for us may not be aligned with somebody else. And
Mhm.
that, in essence, has been all my aha moments. What you're talking about is, I think, all getting back to really who I am and what I was meant for, which sounds really cliche and stuff. But I came to a point where my backstory really is about chronic Lyme disease. So back in 2009, I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, and I was spending 16, 18 hours in bed. The doctor was like, you're going to have to accept this. This is how your life is going to be for the rest of your life. Suck it
Mhm.
up. He was like, quit bringing stuff to me, quit bringing ideas, quit doing research. You're going to be like this forever. And I had young kids. My youngest, I think, was in like, gosh, in 2009, he was like 6. And so my middle guy claims that he raised his brother. It is not the whole truth. They knew to come in and tiptoe into the house because I was sleeping when they would come home from school and stuff like that. And there came a point where I was like crying all the time, thinking I'm never going to get to Paris. And we went to Paris.
Yeah.
Uh, that I was never going to see the world. I wanted to travel, all those things that I thought that I was going to do later after the kids grew up, after we had more money for me, just the
Mhm.
normal mom thing to put everybody else ahead and then go, oh, I'll just do that later. And I felt like later was never going to come, that this was the end. And so I was like, okay, this life kind of sucks. I'm just muddling through, barely making it. I'm not even awake. I can't help my kids with anything. I can't go to their school functions and stuff. And my little guy's asking me, can you go to the Christmas party? And I'm like, I'm really sorry, baby. I can't. I just can't muster it up. I did the 1 year and then it took me literally 2 weeks to recover from it. So, I think there was an aha moment before you and I even met about the coaching and
Mhm.
stuff, where I was like, I need to decide, am I going to make something of my life? Am I going to figure this out, or am I going to let the doctor define how it's going to be forever? Because I was sitting there thinking, I'm going to end this because I can't keep living like this. But again, as a mom, you're like, I can't leave my kids. I have so many
Mhm.
things that I want to do with them. I want to see them grow up. I want to see them get married. I want to meet my grandchildren one day. And that moment was when I was like, okay, Vicki, you're going to have to figure this out. Forget the doctors. We're going to figure this out. And that's when I realized too, through all that research, that like the thing that was keeping me back was my mind, my thoughts about if I could get better, the positivity about life, just all those things, the trauma that I held from my childhood. And I feel like that created this perfect storm in my body for Lyme to take hold and for all the things that happened with it to just get progressively worse. So coaching helped me and pulled me out of that funk. And after a while, I realized that I'm always talking about Gay Hendricks' book, The Genius Zone, where he talks about how we tend to operate in our zone of excellence. We studied something, we learned stuff, whatever. And so that's what you did after school. You graduated, got this job, and all of that. But we don't tend to operate in our zone of genius because it's a little scarier. Maybe it's not something that we went to school for. And so we go through life in our zone of excellence, but always feeling that something's missing because we're not in our zone of genius. And I can't say that I'm there yet, but every progressive aha moment, has gotten me a little bit closer. So the
Yeah.
next, after coaching, I was like, you know what? I don't want to keep doing this. It's been great. But the thought of having it on my tombstone, I was like, oh, you're being so ungrateful. You have this awesome life. You have this awesome coaching business and you don't want it. Are you nuts? And it took a while for me to finally be like, okay, I need to switch. And it was after fibroid surgery that I decided that what the stress of the coaching and the way that I was doing things and me wanting things more for people than they wanted for themselves was taking a toll on my body, which I couldn't continue because I still deal with maintaining a lot of stuff from the Lyme. And that's when I decided to jump into the business that I am in right now, which we do online certifications for sound and energy healers. And then I have an e-commerce store where we sell instruments and accessories and stuff like that. So that was a very long story as to how I got here, but lots of aha moments in there.
Yeah, but I mean, most people's stories are long, right? I mean, there's a lot that happens. And I think, it's so interesting because I met you at a point where, you were obviously fighting Lyme disease is a daily thing. But I remember you just are full of energy. And
Mm.
I can't even imagine that time where you weren't able to go out because when you get out, we've traveled the world together. It's been fun and gone to a lot of places. And you you just have this vibrancy about you and getting out into the world and seeing things and talking to people. And so I love seeing that part of you. And I know then you would go take your Epsom salt bath in the middle of the day to help you maintain that. But I think it's seeing where you went, where you were, and then where you've come to, and now having this multi-million-dollar business where you've been able to figure out a little more of that balance of what you were looking for that feels more authentic to you. And I know there's going
Yeah.
to be more on your journey
Yeah.
and getting there and where you're headed. But share with us just a few tips of how you personally got through that challenge and was able to get to this point where you were able to transition from having that successful coaching business to doing what you're doing now and finding mindset, right? And
Yep.
finding the law of attraction to be able to bring in. I know you've blown up on TikTok, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that,
Yeah.
and done some incredible things to be able to get in front of the right people and attract the right people.
Yeah, it's funny because starting out, I was like, I'm just going to have this cute little e-commerce store. That's what I said I was going to do. I told my husband that I was going to take a pay cut. And lo and behold, what happens? And I think that just goes to show what can happen if
Mhm.
you decide to step into the thing that you really want for your life. And I'm always telling people too that you got to backwards engineer stuff. I wanted to free up my time. I didn't care how that happened. I just wanted to free up my time and have a lifestyle where we could travel and do other things. And I wouldn't have to worry about being on a coaching call or talking to clients outside those coaching calls, emails and status and help and all that stuff. And I decided that I was going to open this e-commerce store and sell jewelry. Little did I know that it all ends up looking the same. And jewelry, I was in it before where I used to do wire wrap jewelry. So I've always loved jewelry and I've always loved crystals and stuff like that. But I didn't realize how saturated the market was and how similar things looked. So
Mhm.
after a while, I was like, not exactly sure that this is going to give me what I want. It was funny because back then we would go to a movie and I had stuff on Etsy and stuff. Went to a movie this one day, I remember, and I think I sold like 3 bracelets while we were at the movies. And I'm like, I made $30 while I was here. I was so geeked and excited for that $30. I'm like, let's just go to the movies more often. When I check my phone and see how much. And I think it for me, I'm just very stubborn. And I think that helps with the law of attraction, right? I just want what I want and I want my cake and eat it too. And I'm very stubborn about figuring it out. I think I get that from my mom. This like you make this rule about something and I know this sounds kind of bad because I'm a rule follower and a rule breaker. But it's like make this rule about something and I'm like, I don't think so. And I try some way to still follow the rules, but then get around it somehow. And I think part of because that's part of my personality, I've always been one to think I can figure anything out. I can learn anything. My parents were immigrants, so my mom always said to me, if you can read and if you have the desire to learn something, you can do anything in your life. And I've taken that to everything. There's definitely been techie things and whatever that I have no idea how to do. And sometimes I'm like, I can't do this. And that's where I changed a lot of my thoughts through this process. In the beginning, I'd be like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Maybe we got to do it. And now I go, oh, you can figure this out. Where I'm like, oh, that's just so hard. Because we have all those thoughts all the time. It's impossible to always be positive and always be confident. And
Mhm.
inside my head, I'm like, I don't, I don't know how to do this. I can't do this. And then immediately I'm like, Vicki, get a grip. Of course you can do this. Of course you can figure this out. Of course you know. And so from that mindset, I think is where everything started to blow up. I started doing ads because I knew with a lower ticket item, because I was now creating courses and online things that then tied back to the e-commerce store. So
Mhm.
that's when I was like, I need volume. And realizing that I needed volume meant that I needed to learn ads better. And so I devoured learning ads and trying to figure that out. I love art. I'm a graphics person. I love those types of things. I love copy. I love marketing. So those things have served me really well in coaching because what I've noticed is, when you're talking about there's a masculine and feminine, right? The feminine is very creative and it comes up with a lot of ideas, and the masculine side figures out the strategy and implements it. And what I've noticed is that if you're heavy on one or the other and you don't really combine the two, that there is a bit of a struggle in getting the thing going. And I feel like because I've got that artistic creative side, and then I also have this very mathematical get it done side,
Mhm.
those two really merge together well. So I learned the ads. I started putting out the ads, and that's when everything just started taking off. People were buying like crazy. It wasn't anymore like, I'm so excited that we have $30 because I got 3 bracelets. It's
Yeah.
more like, oh my gosh, we've got 50 people joining my sound healer program in a day. Then it turned from the one to the other, and then it just went crazy with the ads after that.
Yeah, that is so exciting. I had to ask, like, where is your best place to run ads and how is your best ones performed?
Oh, goodness. I've had some ads that had gone on for probably 2 years. Now, that is definitely not something I would recommend because they slowly dwindled down and
Yeah.
weren't working that well. That's really not the way to do it. Don't take that as a takeaway. That is not a takeaway. The takeaway is refresh your ads every 2 weeks and don't be like Vicki. But I think that a lot of people were looking for online things during COVID, and that was why that really took off the way that it did. Facebook is definitely my best platform. Facebook and Insta are together, but it's mostly Facebook. And then I did try TikTok ads, could not figure it out. Who knows the future of TikTok anyway? And then we did Google ads, and Google ads have been very profitable for us as well. But the really fascinating thing is how Facebook and Google together is really the magic.
Mm,
People see stuff on Facebook and they're like, oh, is this a scam? Is
yeah.
this person legit? And then they go on Google and they Google either your company or your name or whatever it is. They look you up and then they go into the Shopify store versus going back to the same sales page that they saw on Facebook. And now Google wants to take credit for that
Right.
sale. But whatever, it doesn't matter who's taking credit. But it's very interesting how circular it is that
Yes.
when I'm not spending as much in ads in Facebook, Google doesn't do as well.
Mm,
So they very much combine with each other because I think buyers are a little more leery now and there are a lot of scams and people have stolen my foot bowl with the logo on the outside and pretended like it was theirs, and they're trying to sell a foot bowl that's like over $1,000, handmade from Nepal. This thing weighs a bazillion tons and they're trying to sell it for $39. And so a bunch of people got scammed. They see my video that, and you can steal any picture or video from the internet these days.
yeah.
And it's like, it's not me. Go dispute it at your credit card company. Go dispute
Mhm.
it. So I ended up having to put up a video about the scam and I sent out multiple cease and desist letters to different companies to stop.
And that's so frustrating that people do that. And now it's even, AI tools going and pulling those things when you get to that point where you are big enough that people want to duplicate and copy and take
Mhm.
your stuff. Yeah. But I love hearing, and we see the same thing where, you know, and I'm sure everyone has done it, right? You see an ad on Facebook and you go Google it. So we see the same thing in the ads we run too. It's people need that authenticity. They need the to validate that it's real. They want to go look at reviews and things like that. And
Right.
so Google gives them the opportunity, but they first see it on Facebook. And
Right,
now
and the
knowing,
funny thing was when I started this business, I'm like, "I am not going to be the face of another business.
Mhm.
The face of my business was gonna be my logo." Ha! That did not happen, and part of that, I think, is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
People wanna make sure that you're legit, they feel safe, they wanna know my story. You know, a lot of people join because they also have chronic issues, or I have customers who are suffering from Lyme as well, or know somebody with Lyme, and then you
Mhm.
tell them that story, and then they feel like you understand, and they feel safe with that, and then they choose to purchase from my course versus somebody else's course that's, like, name faceless.
Yeah. Yeah, people have to feel that connection. And
Mhm.
so I think when we're purchasing products, a lot of times people will purchase either based off of recommendation or review.
Yeah.
But if they don't know, being able to see that, hear the story can make
Yeah.
such a huge impact. And now they feel connected. So now when you put other things out there, and you were
Mhm.
talking a little bit about cross selling and things earlier, they're more connected to you. So they want more, right?
Right.
They want to come back for more. They want to see what else you have. that can
Yeah.
help them. That's awesome. Now, I know you have done lots of things, and we like to talk about our OMG moments, and we define that as those moments in your life where you do something big and bold and step outside of your comfort zone and take risks to get where you want to go in your
Mhm.
business or in your life. What are some of those big OMG moments? And we talked about being able to go to Paris and some other places. What are some other OMG moments for you that you've been able to create?
I think the biggest one most recently is just saying no to the book coaching. And you're always tempted when people write in and say, "Hey, can you coach me on this? Can you?" They're trying to throw money at you. And I'm like, no, I don't do that anymore. And I think that the moment really was that fibroid surgery and going into that and saying, I can't keep doing this at this pace. I need to slow down for me.
Mhm.
Ironically, like I said, this was supposed to be my little cute business. And ironically, it's just blown up. But that just goes to show like when you really do something that you love and that is aligned with you. And I'm going to talk energy because I'm an energy healer. When it's energetically right,
Mhm.
things just fall into place. So I think that there were so many OMG moments, but that was really a big one for me where I was like, all these people told me it can't be done,
Mhm.
that you won't make money on it. And that made me fearful for more years than I'd like to admit to.
Mhm.
Um, and that moment where I was like, OMG, right? Like they were wrong.
Yeah.
They were wrong. And I think that made me go, you know what? Now I'm not listening to anybody. They can continue to tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to continue to do it my way. And even my ads guy, like I got into a mastermind and he taught all about ads and he was talking about sales pages and things like that. And now when I write sales pages, I get very aligned with myself, right?
Mhm.
And I like to handwrite my sales. Okay, I'm a marketing nerd, so I love to handwrite my sales pages and my copy and all that stuff. And I'll set it down, then I pick it back up, and then I set it down. I'm like, it doesn't feel right just yet. And then I'll put it into the sales page. But I do not launch that sales page until I feel good about it. And feeling good about it means like I'm going, oh, let me open that again. And I read it. I'm like, oh, that's really good. And then I'll close it and go off and do something else. I'm like, I need to read that again. And I read it again. Oh, it's so amazingly good. And that's when I know that it's going to sell. That's when I
Mhm.
know that it's a program that's really going to work. And it's funny because my ads coach at the time, he was like, well, you need to do this to your sales page. I'm like, don't think so. And so I really believe that the OMG moment for me was being able to stand in my own and realize that, yes, we hire people to be authority figures, right? And help us with certain things. But again, just because they do it one way doesn't mean that that's right for you. You got to figure out your own way. And then you need to stand in that. You need to say, you know what, this is how I want to show up in life. This is how I am going to do it because there's 50 zillion ways to get from point A to point B.
Mhm. Yeah, there is, and it can be confusing and not knowing which direction to go,
Mhm.
and there's times where
You gotta feel it in your core. Like you
yeah.
have to feel aligned and good with it. And
Mhm.
I used to ignore that. Okay, I'm just go back again to how much women ignore that, other sense of stuff.
Yeah.
And how many times have we thought somebody was a creep and then we were like, let's give him a chance and he was a creep? Like those types of things, same in your business, right? And maybe not,
Mhm.
it's not a creep, but it's the same thing. You have a feeling about something, you ignore it because you're trying to see something, but you have to have that belief and the faith that it's going to work out the way that you envision it, that you want it, that's going to align with you. And there's so many times where I'm just like, people ask me to something, and I'm like, this doesn't feel aligned. The funny thing is, they can't argue with that. A lot of times people will try to convince you one thing or other, but when you go, I don't do anything if it doesn't feel aligned with me, it doesn't feel aligned with me. They can't make
Right.
it feel
Yes.
aligned for you. So I found that that's an interesting conversation I have with people too. Sometimes I'm just like, no, not doing that. Doesn't feel aligned. And then they just don't know what to say.
Yeah, they don't, and I think some people don't know how to get aligned, and I know you have a special gift for everyone as well, so tell us about what your gift is and how they can get that.
Yeah, so it's a really super simple quick because I know how busy people are, right? So we have seven main chakras. There's actually over 100, but we have seven main chakras in our body that a lot of people will talk about. And those are energy wheels in your body. And when they get blocked, um, or stuck energy, right? Then you will start manifesting them in different ways, whether it's physical, spiritual, or whatever. So, for instance, I had a student at one time, a client, who every time she went to write her book, she got a sore throat.
Mhm.
And I said to her, "Is there something that you need to put in that book that you are not saying?" And she went, "Oh, actually, yes, there's this thing." And so we cleared that. So that's just an example of what can happen physically. You manifest that sore throat because you need to clear this throat chakra. So, anyways, the free gift is every day you can go through a really quick affirmation and chakra clearing, or you can do it all in one day if you want to. But, just like before work, while you're brushing your teeth, whatever, you can listen to it and then set some intentions for the day for yourself and then get all those chakras cleared so that you really can work at your highest and best self.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I've dealt with that many times too, where people are like, work with them on their talk or what their message is going to be, and they just can't get it out. And I'm like, okay, we gotta clear this throat chakra. Let's
Yeah.
get through this because there's something you're holding back. There's something you're not saying. So I love that. Go grab Vicky's gift. That will help you in so many ways getting those chakras cleared and be perfectly figure out how to get aligned with what you really want when those are clear. Because otherwise, it's like all those other voices in your head, other people telling you what to do. And we want you to make that decision and be aligned with what you're doing. So thank you so much, Vicki, for being here. It was so much fun.
It was so fun chatting.
Yes. All right, you guys, go grab her gift and make sure that you're thinking about how is what you're doing this year aligned with what you really want? Where are you listening to other people's voices instead of listening to your own? And how are you going to shift things to be more aligned with what you want?